The winter wind blew sharp through the open plains, dragging dry leaves and ghostly dust across the bones of a once busy ranch. The sound of the screen door creaking against the wind echoed like a lonely hymn across the barren yard. Inside, a fire crackled low in the hearth, and beside it sat a man who hadn't spoken much since the funeral, widower Sam Holt. He stared at the cradle in front of him, the baby inside restless, whimpering. His wife had passed giving birth 3 weeks ago, and though he'd tried, Lord knew he didn't know the first thing about keeping an infant alive. He'd buried her himself, just over the hill, beneath a lone cottonwood tree. Now he sat watching the last piece of her struggle to breathe. The baby's face was pale, the cries weak. Sam's big hands trembled as he rocked the cradle with one finger. He didn't weep anymore. He'd run out of tears. He just waited, half expecting the child to stop breathing altogether. That was when the knock came. It startled him. No one came out this far anymore. He stood, brushed the dust from his shirt, and went to the door. Standing there was a woman bundled in an oversized coat, her hair wet with sleet, her boots caked in mud. She was short, round-faced, and full-bodied in a way women didn't much advertise out here. "I was told there was work here," she said, voice trembling from cold but steady enough. "You need a cook." Sam blinked, uncertain what to say. "Who sent you?" "The trading post clerk," she replied. "Said the whole place lost its lady. I can cook, clean, I don't talk much." She hesitated, glancing toward the baby's weak cries behind him. "And I can nurse the baby, sir, if you'd have me." Sam's jaw tightened. He didn't mean to stare, but his eyes flickered over her. Her thick figure, her worn coat, the exhaustion carved deep into her face. She looked like she'd been walking for days. "No one wants a fat girl, sir," she said, lowering her eyes before he could say it. "But I can nurse the baby." For a long moment, Sam said nothing. The fire popped in the background. Then he stepped aside. "Then stay, .. Her name was Clara May. She unpacked little more than a shawl, a wooden comb, and a Bible missing half its cover. By morning, the house smelled of biscuits, salt pork, and hot coffee, the first proper meal Sam had eaten in weeks. The baby had taken to her instantly. She held the child to her chest, humming old lullabies that didn't have names. Her warmth seemed to fill the room. The crying stopped. The baby finally slept. Sam sat at the table, his fork idle, just listening. He hadn't realized how much silence weighed until now. "You've lost a lot," Clara said quietly without looking up. "So have you," he said back. She didn't answer. ... By the second week, the snow had grown thicker. Sam repaired the fence lines while Clara kept the house warm. The baby, whom he still called just the boy, had color in his cheeks again. One evening, as the firelight danced across the log walls, Sam caught Clara sewing a small blue blanket for the cradle. "You're good with a needle," he said, leaning against the post. She smiled faintly. "Mama taught me, said a woman should always know how to mend what's torn." He nodded, the meaning of her words hanging between them longer than either admitted. That night, when he walked past the room, he found her asleep in the rocker, the baby pressed against her chest, the faint sound of her humming still caught in her throat. For a moment, he thought how gentle she looked. Then he remembered his wife, her golden hair, her slim fingers, her soft laugh, and guilt stabbed him clean through. ... By the third month, word had spread. Widower Holt took in a cook, the store clerk whispered to passing ranch hands. "Big woman, quiet type, but they say she sleeps under the same roof." When Sam rode into town, he could feel the stares. Men tipped their hats but smirked behind their hands. "Thought you'd marry another beauty, Holt," one of them joked. "Didn't think you'd pick one with an appetite." Sam didn't answer, just gripped the sack of flour tighter and walked back to his horse. When he got home, Clara saw the tightness in his jaw but didn't ask. She just handed him coffee and went back to stirring stew. "Folks talking?" she asked after a while. "Don't matter," he muttered. "Yes, it is," she said softly. "You got a name to keep." He turned to her then, eyes hard. "You keep this house warm. You keep my boy alive. That's all that matters." She nodded, but her lip trembled. ... That night, Sam couldn't sleep. The wind howled through the chimney, rattling the panes. He went downstairs for a drink and found Clara sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. "You ever married?" he asked. She shook her head. No man ever asked. Why? She gave a tired laugh. I reckon men want something they can show off. Not someone like me. He sat across from her, the firelight catching the scar that ran along his temple, burned in a stampede years back. Maybe men don't know what they need until they're starving for it. She looked up then, really looked at him. The air between them grew heavy. The baby stirred in the next room, breaking the moment. Clara rose, brushing her skirt. You need sleep, Mr. Holt. Sam, he said quietly. She paused. Good night, Sam. Spring thaw came late that year. The prairie turned to mud, and wagons sank axle deep on the trails. Still, Clara kept the home steady, singing, cooking, nursing, mending, while Sam worked the herd. But rumors kept spreading. Cooks got her hooks in him, one rancher laughed. A widow's bed's a lonely place, after all. When a neighbor, Frank Dawes, dropped by one afternoon to deliver a saddle, he stayed longer than he needed to, leaning in close to Clara while Sam was out back. You're wasted here, miss, Frank whispered, brushing his thumb against her arm. A man could treat you right if you weren't hiding behind a cradle. Clara pulled back. That cradle's got more heart than you'll ever have. Frank sneered. You think Holt'll marry you? You're just a warm body till he finds another pretty one. She slapped him, hard. When Sam returned, he found Frank halfway to his horse, red-faced and cursing. Clara stood in the doorway, shaking. What happened? Sam demanded. Nothing you need to worry about, she said, her eyes glistening. He won't be back. Sam stepped closer. Did he touch you? She turned away, tears slipping down her cheeks. Please don't ask. He grabbed his coat and strode outside, his boots crunching on gravel. Frank Dawes didn't make it far before Sam caught up. The next morning, the man's face bore a bruise that would take weeks to fade. After that, Clara stopped singing. She still worked, still smiled at the baby, but something in her eyes had shuttered. Sam noticed. He wanted to say something, but didn't know how. One night, he found her packing her few belongings. What are you doing? He asked, voice rough. I can't stay, she said softly. People talk, you'll lose your reputation. He stepped forward. My reputation died with my wife. You brought life back to this place. Her hands trembled on the worn handle of her bag. I was never meant to stay. Then why does it hurt to watch you leave? He asked. She froze, tears spilling freely now. He took her hand, calloused, warm, real, and set it against his chest. You said no one wants a fat girl, he whispered. I say you're wrong. I want the woman who saved my son. Her breath caught. You don't mean that. He smiled faintly. Then why am I begging you to stay? She looked at him for a long moment, then dropped the bag. The sound of it hitting the floor echoed louder than thunder. Months passed. The whispers died. Folks in town had new gossip to chew on. Out at the Holt Ranch, the fields grew green again. The baby, now toddling, followed Clara everywhere she went, clutching her apron, babbling nonsense. One evening, Sam came in from the barn, wiping sweat from his neck. Clara stood at the stove, stirring stew, her hair coming loose in curls around her face. He walked up behind her, resting a hand on her shoulder. Smells good, she smiled over her shoulder. You always say that. That's 'cause it's always true. When she turned, their eyes met, soft, knowing. The kind of look that didn't need words. He reached for her hand again, the same way he had that night months ago. Clara, he said quietly, you ever think about what comes next? She tilted her head. You mean supper? He chuckled. No, I mean after that. Her heart skipped. He took a breath. This ranch was my wife's dream once. But now, it's home because of you. Tears welled in her eyes. Sam, he pulled a small silver ring from his pocket, tarnished but whole. It was hers, he said. She'd want it worn by someone who could love this place the way she did. Clara shook her head, overcome. I ain't a pretty woman. He smiled. You're the only kind of woman who ever mattered. And with the baby gurgling between them and the wind howling outside, she let him slip the ring on her finger. That night, the house was warm in a way it hadn't been since before the loss. The cradle sat beside the fire again, the baby sleeping soundly, the blue blanket tucked snug around him. Sam and Clara sat side by side, watching the flames dance. Funny thing, he said softly. I took you in 'cause you said you could nurse the baby. And now, she asked. "Now," he said, reaching for her hand, "I reckon you nursed me back to life, too." The wind outside held like a distant train, carrying away the last of winter. Inside, the fire glowed steady, and the house, their home, finally felt full again. And for the first time in a long, long while, neither of them felt like they didn't belong.